Sorry, guys.
The king of S&C social media, the
Shut up.
mobility OG himself, Vernon. How are you, sir?
Good, man. How you doing, Kier?
I'm good, brother. I'm in better spirits than last time I saw you because I'm not starving myself for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that was an awkward time eating all that in front of you while you ate a salad.
It wasn't too bad, bro. You know, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, you know, the funny thing is, I actually I was aiming for 170, and I like started cutting all the water, and I got to Thursday. I got to 172, and I felt like Freddie Mercury in 1991. And one of the purple belts, he's like, bro, just don't be so shit at jiu-jitsu. And I was like, fuck it, all right then. So I didn't even have to do it. In the end, I weighed in at like 181 on Saturday, so fuck it.
Whatever. Fucking let it ride.
Yeah. So give me the real short bio for people that are not familiar with your background.
Man, I fucking hate this part every single goddamn time. It's just a dude coached. I was in the military, opened my own business. I work primarily with military special operators, active and retired, and do a lot of consulting now in professional sports and athletes. So I think that's, I guess, my kind of space now. But athletes of all shapes and sizes, yeah.
What prompted the desire to go into the military?
I was the dude. I was that story of the guy that got hurt in high school and college fell through, and what am I going to do? Like, I didn't come from a family of money, like going to school, taking out loans. Like my mom didn't even know how to like FAFSA. Like, we didn't even know what that was. I didn't even know college was an option if sports wasn't there. And so I joined the military. Joined the military right after school. While I was in, it was a great time. I worked for some amazing leaders. I got exposed to a lot of things, learned a lot, started going to, that's when I realized I wanted to do strength conditioning, started going to school for it while I was in the military, decided, hey, I want to get out. I want to pursue this. A couple things happened to make me want to do that as well. Got out, finished up school, opened my own business. That was my path, I guess.
You're a little bit younger than me, right?
33.
Yeah, 33. So yeah, I feel like when you're in kind of like the ballpark of the age of all three of us are, you obviously have like a 9/11, and that's like, I always remember my dad telling me that everyone his age can remember where they were when Kennedy got shot. And for people our age, it's like that's like the defining kind of like watershed moment of your life. And I always thought that perhaps if I'd have been a couple of years older, I might have ended up going down that path, but I was just a little bit too young in the UK to be going into the military. And I wondered, you know, how formative that was for you going in.
Oh, definitely. I remember sitting in PE class. It was health class, and we were sitting there, and it happened. And the first plane hit, and we were just like, man, what's going on? And then you go back, and then we were in health class, and the second one hit. And I don't know, man, a very emotional time. Definitely think there was a little bit of that feeling as well of like, man, I don't know, when you're 17 years old, you're very confused when all those emotions start rushing. Like, you know, should I do something? Do I do something? But I definitely think it helped guide my decision. Like, all these things start happening, and I'm not someone that believes in coincidences, but I was like, hey, this happened, this happened, this happened.
Mm.
You know, it's like almost like this opportunity is here, and you know, the timing is not, I don't want to say ideal, but it's no such thing as coincidences. So I think it definitely helped my decision.
With you obviously having the amount of skin in the game that you have, and having gone over there and been involved in the conflict that resulted from that, how do you look back on it since? Because obviously, you know, I'm sure many people feel this way. Do you know Jason Pegg?
I know the name. I don't know him.
Powerlifter, but anyway, his background was he was in the infantry, got blown up in Afghanistan, Purple Heart, barely held onto his arm. And I was talking to him about, you know, when you look at all of the sacrifices that have been made, that in 20 years to replace the Taliban with the Taliban, how do you feel kind of like looking back on that as somebody that was on the inside of that?
Talk about like it being back to where it is now.
Yeah, like the frustration. Was it worth it? Would you do it again? I'm kind of curious to speak to people on the inside of that.
I think it's almost like an emotional like feeling, because your first reaction is, man, all that was for nothing.
Yeah.
Like all these people died for nothing. But then, I guess being separate, but that's also a visceral reaction, like on the moment. But like now looking back at it, I guess how many people were saved from it, but
Yeah.
war is different, man. Like it's easy to, I think people try to make war to be a blood versus blood thing, but war is all about money. Like that land was so valuable, that oil was valuable. So it's almost like when I was deployed, we start having these conversations like, why are we even here? Like we're being told it's to save these people and protect these people, but
It's to keep China out in Afghanistan, right?
and it's for money. It's money. Money rules everything. So being in the moment, I think you look at it differently because you're being told something, you're being swayed. You have your brothers around you, your sisters around you. You're protecting them. You're doing it for your friends that you're next to, because that's just that's the selfless thing of being in those positions. But now looking back on it, it's just, I don't know if it's older wisdom or just now seeing how the world works. It's just like, man, what was all that for? And I'm not going to get conspiracy theory type stuff, but like when you see the stuff happening now, it's just like you can get upset, but it's just like, man, there's so many people pulling strings that you'll never understand what these strings are being pulled for. That they want you to be upset, they want you to be visceral, that's how society is. They want to control you. So just trying to have thoughts outside of that and not be in that echo chamber, I think, is important.
Do you definitely feel like those with the most exposure to violence are the least willing to resort to violence?
What do you mean?
Jason, speaking to guys like Doug Ketchagin, the most watered down version of this, but like hanging around like fight gyms and stuff like that. The people that are most trained in fighting and have the most exposure to violence are the least willing to resort to violence. Like you talked about outrage and the media and stuff like that. One of the things that struck me in the last administration in America is you have President Trump talking the way that he does, and then someone like James Mathis be like, whoa, calm down. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, it to me, the very simplest point, and I think this is the funny thing about social media, is if you ever have to tell someone, I'm going to punch you, you're not going to punch them.
Yeah.
If anyone ever is in a bar and be like, boy, no, you're not.
Yeah, you picked the wrong one. No, I did pick the right one.
I've been in those fights. I've been in those situations, and you don't get a warning. You just get punched in the face, and then you're fighting. Anyone that asks the posturing, if they have to posture, there's a reason they have to posture, and it's because they're already standing at a low level. Like there's a reason you posture, because you know that that's all you got. So that's from a very simple way of looking at things, and I think people get emotional from that standpoint. But that's definitely, I guess, a little soapbox conversation. But I think everyone can relate to that. Like social media, like, oh, I'm going to get tough on social media. You're never going to say that in the street. In sports, like the guy yelling and flipping off the basketball player on the court 5 feet away, he would never do that at Walmart.
Every comment written about an athlete should be written as if the athlete is behind you as you write it.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, you guys have experience with fighting and stuff, but we were in a brawl the other day. It never starts, and the guy comes to me and be like, you wouldn't even last 5 minutes with me. And I was like, dude, 5 minutes is a long time to be fighting with someone. I was like, it's a really long round. And the guy was like, what? He was not expecting that reply. I was like, yeah, I do S&C like 5 minutes. You need to be conditioned, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, we never fought, but it was such shit talk.
I don't think I've ever been in a fight longer than like 30 seconds. Like within 30 seconds, I hope your friends would eventually pull you away, or someone gets knocked down. Like you're not fighting for 5 minutes unless it's like organized fighting, like jiu-jitsu or something. Like what? No, that's not how fighting works.
Now that you're out of the military, one of the things that I remember, when we first met and we had lunch, you said it's like a freight train going past. He said you're holding onto the freight train, and the second you decide to let go, you're not going to grab it again. It's just gone. Now that you're several years removed from the military, what are king for a day, what are the major things that you would do to address the current failures within the military to make people want to be there longer and be happier doing it?
I think I would pose this a little bit different. It's the military should not be something that you have to stay in because you feel like you have to.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, the military, that 6 years that I was in, changed my life. And not getting cheesy, it totally did, and it set me up to where I am today. But that's okay. It shouldn't be like I got out, so now the military, they did something wrong. It's just that I took the skills that I had, the opportunities, the people I met, my experiences, and I was ready to flourish and grow in something different. So I would pose that question as the military should do a better job of transitioning people. And that goes, there's a lot of facade transitioning of, well, we're going to have this 2-week transition program where we teach you how to write a resume and this and that. And that doesn't help you at all. I can't tell you how many people get out of the military and they're like, wait, I have to buy health insurance. Health insurance is how much? And to me, it's you live in this bubble while you're in the military where they take care of your food. They pay you extra a month for housing. Like they take care of everything. There's a JAG officer, a paralegal on base. If you ever have any problems with stuff like that, and you get bubbled away from the real world so much that there should be some sort of acclimation process or a better out processing procedure to expose you to the real world is, because the skills that you did obtain while you were in the military are very valuable. And are honestly wanted, especially in businesses and management positions. So they could do a better job with that, because it's almost like that old quote of, what if we take care of our people and they leave, and what if you don't take care of them and they stay? That's kind of how I look at it.
Why do you think there is a bit of a gap there, given the resources, the history of the military, this is not their first rodeo. Why do you think there's still a gap?
A gap with people
with what's required to help people transition out of the military and how it is right now. Is it lack
they don't care?
Yeah, lack of receptiveness.
You're not theirs anymore. Where's the liability? Why they don't have, why would they care? It's no different than coaching. Like the second you leave, see ya. Bring your iPad. The second you get cut, bring your iPad. The second you leave, hey, bring us back that jacket. Like you're not needed anymore, and you're only looked at as a number. But while you're in, they're like, no, you are a part of us. Like this is us, which is kind of very similar to coaching. Like, no, you're one of us. We are a team. But then when you leave, you're like, wait. We were never a team.
I know you.
I was literally just a number. And that train metaphor, it couldn't be further from the truth, because while you're on it, all you see is these bus stops flying past, and you don't even realize it because time is flying, and you don't. It's almost like you're just holding on for dear life because it's a ride. Like there's a lot going on, but when you let go, that train is gone so fast. You're just standing there like, what? Like it's what? And I'll never forget one of my guys. I was working with him with the program I ran, and he was an active duty operator while I worked with him. And during our time that we were training, he transitioned out. And he was like, I'll never forget that feeling of having the highest level of classification at the most prestigious special operations team in the world, and having to hand over my badge and be escorted off by security police because I was no longer trusted, because I was not them anymore. And I was just like, holy crap. And he just sat there on the couch and he was just like bummed out. And I was like, dude, what's going on? He was like, bro, I was just escorted out of a place that I've been for 18 years because I wasn't trusted anymore, because I wasn't one of them. When literally that morning I was. And that's a hard thing to process when you pride yourself in the uniform, in the brotherhood. When you pride yourself in it and it's gone, like that sucks.
That it strikes me as a similarity with athletes. In my experience, the transition from athlete to non-athlete can be a very, very hard one, and it's almost like the work has to be done before they retire that you can build an identity or aspects of your life that do not hinge upon your job, because it's those athletes that have other things in their lives and they're able to define themselves in ways that aren't their job. You know, we talked about this at lunch, that they transition most successfully. And to me, the kind of like poster child for that is Magic Johnson. That guy did not miss a beat. He was like straight, boom, right, not a basketball player anymore, going to do this. But then you see so many guys that once that aura is removed and they ask themselves, like we talked about, who am I? And you can't talk about your job. It's like, fuck, I have no idea.
No idea.
Yeah.
And that was, and honestly, that I experienced that moment when I was in the military. One of my people that I looked up to the most, you know, endless stories, deployed stateside, and he was one of the best men that I knew and I looked up to tremendously, but I only knew him from a work relationship and personal relationship, like dude talk, stuff like that. I didn't know his family. And we went to his retirement ceremony, and it's that end of the night, or the retirement ceremony, the end of the ceremony, where it's story time. Like everyone's telling their stories of him, and you're just like, damn, man, like that was a crazy mission. That was awesome. Like he was the best leader ever. And then he was sharing his stories about everyone, and everyone's like getting emotional and crying, and it's amazing. And then when it was time to talk about his family, it was the most vanilla, like, I'm so proud of you guys. You're doing so good in school and I love you. And I was just like, wow, I remember looking at my wife like, what? I was like, he doesn't know his family at all. And then he has to give a gift to his family. So he gave his wife flowers. He gave his daughter like a dress or something, and gave his son like a toy. He was like like a video game thing or something like that. And they came up to talk about him. And it was like the most emotionless, like talking about their dad ever.
It could have been
and I was just like, yeah, I was just like, oh my God. And I was like, I don't know if it was just because it was like before that was the best stories ever, or if they don't know this dude at all. But I was just like, I don't want that. Like I like that, like it was just, I remember that feeling, and I still get the goosebumps about it. And I was just like, this is terrible. Like I feel so bad for him. And you could see in the moment, like his face changed. It went from this joyous, he had this very good gregarious personality, was just very demonstrative, very like personality. And then when it came to his family, he almost clammed up, and his face got like almost flush. And I was just like, holy shit, like this is crazy. Like this dude, I look up to him, and he's just not the person you thought. But that doesn't mean he's not a good person, because that person was needed. It was needed during that time to do that job. But like, it's crazy when that train pulls away, man. You got to make sure that you have your family with you. Like the metaphor of, you could put your family on the back burner for as long as you want, but sooner or later that water is going to boil out. And those kids only got 18 years. So it's, you're giving 18 years to the military, or you're, keeping those priorities in line, because, they will suck you dry of everything.
I was going to ask you later, but you touched on it, like family and your wife. How long you and your wife been together now? Like known each other?
17 years.
Yeah. So what I was going to ask you is, you've known and been with your wife throughout all these different stages of life. So pre-military, military, transitioning to the Lord of the universe of social media that you are now. How do you just feel like the luckiest guy in the world that you've got a partner that's been able to transition with you throughout all these stages and stay aligned with you? Or is it like, how deliberate has it been for you to have a productive relationship like that over half your life?
I feel like, and not to get relationship advice, but I guess I can give. I've been married for fucking 17 years. So I think what people think a relationship is completely fake. Love, I think love is not a real emotion. It's just a thought of love. And love is an action that has to take place consistently. And me and my wife, we met when we were 17. Like, we are completely different people. Like not even close. Like our thoughts, our personalities, the things that we like, the things that we enjoy, our hobbies are completely different. So, when we met, we were like this. And we of course grew away, but somehow we've able to just kind of stay on at least a close enough path that we can kind of stay together. But like it's hard work, man. Relationships are not always fun. They're not always easy. Like I don't always like my wife, I don't. Yeah, I don't always like her. She doesn't always like me. And I think the best point is, I think our relationship, every relationship have its rough times, but whenever I've really not liked her, she's really liked me, and we've just been very fortunate enough to time those when we have like when she's really not into me, I'm really into her. When she's really not into, or vice versa. So it's just constant, man. There's no perfect relationship. It's just constant work, constant addressing it actively.
And how old is your oldest?
15.
Yeah. So you became a father young.
Yeah. We shouldn't have been parents that early. Yeah. We were not ready.
Did you ever feel like, I mean, I've never agreed with that statement, but I would speak to people in my 20s and they'd be like, fucking hell, you work hard. But then now I feel like I wish I had in my 20s the drive that being a father in my 30s gave me. Did you feel like that? It was almost like, because I feel like when you see them come out, you're like, fuck, let's go. Let's fucking work.
Yeah. I mean, it's different. Like people say they're wise and stuff. And I'm not here to say someone's wiser more than another, but when you have like a kid, it definitely puts things in a perspective because, you want to, I'm not saying you shouldn't do things. You should always do everything for yourself, obviously. But like, I want to impress my kids. I want them to be like, that's my dad. I want my son the other day, he has like a TikTok. It's a kid's posting random shit. And he like, Travis Pastrana popped up. And my friend like did a TikTok thing where you could do it. He was like, my dad knows him. I went to his house and we ride dirt bikes together and he trains him. And my wife sent it to me. She was like, did you see he did this? And I was like, no. And I just sat there and I was like, man, he's like all the cool stuff I think I've done, but he thinks I'm cool because of that. And I was like, man, that's awesome. But it makes you like I want to impress my kids. I want them to be like, that's my dad. Yeah. So it definitely helps. It definitely gets some drive.
Where his dad is cool, I would not question where it comes from. Just take it at face value. Be like, yeah.
Yo, the teenager world is something I was not ready for, and I am not. Like literally the other day, I told my wife, I was like, yo, does Carson hate me? Like she just never want to hang out with me anymore. And she was like, she's a teenager, Vernon. Like, did you want to hang out with your parents? And I was like, no.
Yeah. I feel like anyone hanging out with their parents in their teens is because they both work in a family business together. On the subject of business, you've mentioned a couple of times to me when we've hung out, like your wife is a very successful business person in her own right as a photographer. And she's been influential on how you've approached the business of being a presence online. Is that something that you set out to do, for example, in the way that you position yourself, what you talk about and so on? Or has that evolved over time? Because one of the things that I kind of like, I take the piss and talk to Fernando and talk to JJ and be like, oh, when everyone else is zigging, you have to zag. And if you look at where the competition and the eyeballs is amongst the strength and conditioning community, it's not on mobility. And it might be a tricky thing to sell and be sexy, but there's no question you're the mobility guy. And I think the route to success online is to be the guy. If you could do, Cressy's the shoulder guy, you're the mobility guy. Brett Contreras is the glute guy. It's like if you want to get eyeballs and get influence, is to be a guy.
And I think it's been perceived as so long as a bad thing. Like, oh, I don't want to be like specialized. Like I want to be the jack of all trades. Why? Mobility gets my foot in the door with so many opportunities just because people know who I am because of one word. Like I have so many clients that we do, like all my football guys have been mobility starts, and now I do all their primary field work. Really? Just because mobility gets me in the door. Like if that's what gets me in the door, there are worse things that could get me in the door. Like I like what are we talking about? And being known for something is not a bad thing, especially when you're putting out good information, which I feel I am. And it's a business, man. I think especially nowadays with people realizing how much money you can make online, whether it's programming or courses or certifications or whatever it is, like people want it and people are willing to spend it. So why would you not, want to share good information? And if I hold on, let me backtrack. I get asked often, how do I create a presence, or how do I grow my brand, or how do I become the guy? And I'm like, that right there is how you don't become the guy, is by saying, I want to become a guy.
Yeah.
I want to be known for this. Just put out valuable content. I never was the mobility guy. I just started sharing a couple things. People like really liked it. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. I'll share more. I'll share more. I'll share more. And then now people like, that's what they look for. That's what I get pegged as. If I post some triphasic leg workout, most of the people that follow me are going to be like, yeah, man, I don't care. Can you post that like hip thing that you normally do?
Yeah.
Whatever. But it's sharing valuable stuff and understanding the client or the customer. I think most coaches, they try to play both sides of the fence. Like they want to appeal to coaches, but then they say, well, I also want to sell things. I also want to create coursework. Man, I hate to tell you, coaches ain't buying your stuff. Like, and that's for me, like coaches aren't. It's the personal trainers. It's the people that can't afford me, but want to learn like mobility stuff. And that is my customer. And my wife has helped me out with that tremendously. Like, stop marketing to coaches. Coaches don't care. They want it for free. And I was like, you're right. Why am I talking in my posts like a coach? Why am I using these words that normal people don't understand? Why am I talking, like, why do I care about the importance of eccentric overload and this and that when the people that are my customers don't care about that? So every now and then I'll throw it in there because I do think it's good to put out information. But like my wife has been like, no, keep the main thing the main thing. If you're making money here with this and you have this customer base, appeal to them, because these other people, if your Instagram gets deleted tomorrow, they're not going to text you and be like, yo, Vernon, where you at?
I mean, they would text me just for the memes, but
well, you appeal to a different demographic here.
Well, it's funny, I feel like when it comes to social media, I think like one of the things that strikes me about like yours is like authenticity. Like if it doesn't interest you, you're not going to post it. If it does, you are. And you're kind of like letting your personality come through. And obviously with me being out of college for the last year, I'm like, fuck, here we go. So I'm like started like ramping up the social media. Of course, it's only helped. The following's gone up, the business has gone up. So it's like, yeah, you can say the word cunt on Instagram. So fuck it.
And you can be you. Like dudes are so scared to like be them because they're worried about how it's going to be perceived. Yeah. I can't tell you how many things I've gotten from people like you just said, and they're like, man, thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that on that podcast. Thank you for posting that. I thought I was alone. I'm like what? Like yeah. Everyone's going through the same. Everyone has marital problems at some point. Everyone is scared of losing their job. Like, stop saying egos don't exist. Everyone has a fucking ego. The most egotistical thing you can say, the most egotistical thing you can say is, oh, well, I don't have an ego. That is the most egotistical thing you could say, because everyone has one, and it's completely okay to have an ego. It's just when you're not aware of it's the problem. And dudes are I say dudes, women, whatever, are so fragile about their persona on social media, and they want to be perceived as this big tough guy and whatnot. I don't know. When you have a teenage daughter and her friends roast you every single day, like I don't care what a grown man says on social media.
The thing about ego, Martin Boucher, he just released a book, and he spoke to me a little bit, to research it. And it's almost like that Mike, to me, it's the Mike Tyson thing of, fear is like fire. You can cook your dinner with it, or it can burn your house down. So it's not to say that ego is all good or all bad, because, certainly Fernando will tell you the same. If you're gonna stand in front of a bunch of dudes that outweigh you by 30 to 50 pounds and be like, listen here, you fucking set of cunts, here's what we're gonna do. It's like, you're gonna have to have some ego to stand up and tell them how it is. But at the same time, if you're governed by it, that's when it will be your professional downfall. So it has to be kept in line.
It was this podcast with John Danaher and Lex Friedman, where he was saying, like, it's okay to know where you stand, like that self-awareness, and just keep your ego in check. So whenever you think you're this big guy, you know, calling the shots and whatnot, just do something that will show you how fragile you can be in some different aspect, and then be like, okay, go humble again, you know your limitations, and get choked by someone on a tatami or something, be like, yeah, I still need to learn stuff.
Yeah. With just to come back to the business thing, was the desire to go, fair to say you're almost exclusively online now, you have the gym for more kind of like, that's like the lab we talked about. Was that a doubling down on what's working in your business and start, trying to create more of a lifestyle that is what you want? Because obviously the thing about, I feel you can disagree, when you train people in person, it's fucking horrible for your own life, because they have their life and you're going to be training them before and after.
I've been very fortunate to be around some good business people and some good, I guess they were clients of mine. And that whole concept of spending versus investing is not just money, but it's time. And when you have an in-person client, you are spending time, because it's 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. You only make that dollar. When they leave, you're done. Like, you've just spent time versus investing time, having something online. Like, I don't know why dudes are against it, but it's nice to wake up in the morning and be like, oh, there's more money. I literally did
every PayPal notification to this day come through to my phone, because it's a reminder. I'm like, right, keep working.
It is a nice feeling, and passive income should not be bastardized. It should be celebrated. Like, every other profession celebrates passive income, and coaches don't. We would rather celebrate passive presence. Like, you need to be at the facility at 5 a.m., but the athletes don't get there until 6:30. Why? Like, you're going to celebrate passive. Yeah. Like, stop celebrating passive presence and celebrate passive income. Like, how can you generate money that doesn't require your attention? I don't want to work my whole life and then not get to reap the benefits of it. And I've seen this, like, it sucks we travel a lot as a family, and we hike a lot and adventure. And being at the hikes, and there's a 65-year-old couple, look awesome, in love couple walking together, and they get to the stairs and they see the waterfall, and they're like, man, we can't get to the waterfall. Like, we physically can't get there, and we worked our whole life to see that waterfall, and I can't see it now because I physically can't get there. I don't want to do that. I want to invest my time in the best way possible so that I can have those opportunities to capitalize on my life.
And what are your plans for the future now in terms of business? Because I don't know how you approach things, but I forget it was a quote, but like, basically the quote advocated for planning in 5 to 10 year chunks. And certainly for me, when I got to about 30, that was the chunk done. And now I have the chunk I'm trying to work towards my 40s. And then I'm sure I'm going to revisit that down the line. What about you?
I just actually started another business, focusing on primarily the military, fire rescue, and law enforcement. So I think that's going to be my next big push. But once again, it's finding things that I can invest my expertise, for whatever that word means, and time and knowledge, so that it can create not only a lifestyle that I want of being with my family more, but I don't know, I'm past the days of working all day. Like, I don't want to. Like, I will never miss either my kids going to school in the morning or getting off the school bus. If I'm home, I will be there for one of those. And that was a trade-off I made during COVID last year. Like, I think that was a slap in the face for a lot of people. It's man, what really matters. And to me, and I guess I'm getting a little ranty here, Kier, but there's a big difference between there's a big difference between standard of living and quality of living. And I think most adults confuse those because you assume that a dollar amount means happiness, where in reality, you'd be happy with 20,000 less, but you get to be home at 3 p.m. every single day. But
the optionality, it's like, how much dick do you have to suck for that standard of living?
Yeah. And you're told your whole life, more money, more money, more money. So I don't know. Most people think $100,000 is the magic number. Like, oh, I got to get to $100,000. That means I made it. I made 6 digits. Where realistically, if you look at your bills, if you look at how much money you need to obtain the quality of life you want, it's like 65. So why are you going to crush yourself, sacrifice your family, sacrifice your time, sacrifice your hobbies for what? To make that little bit of extra money so that you can go buy a jet ski that you can take out of the garage once every 2 months? Like, people just don't, like, I think they don't look at their finances, and they don't really reflect on what makes them happy, because they just assume that I'm just chasing this corporate ladder. I'm chasing the coaching ladder. I got to get at this Power 5 school. I've got to get this. And it's just like, man, no, you don't. Like, you could be really happy at this NAAA whatever school, and you actually have more freedom, you have more say in your programming, and you get to go to your kids' games on the weekend. Like, that's a much better option, especially with the tactical space exploding. College is going to have a really hard time competing with that, because you do have time to have a life. You do have time to be with your family, and you do get paid well. So it's going to be interesting.
Fernando literally the other day, and I was like, what's your number? And he goes, I have no idea. And I'm like, you should fucking know your number, because
100%.
You know, there's 2 ways to, you know, to escape the system. One is to increase your income. The other is to decrease what it is that you need to be happy. And it's like, hey, you might as well keep working until you hit that upper end, and then reach a standard of living that's acceptable to you. And then that's your number.
But I think most people, as they go up that number, they go up with their stuff. So they never really see that buffer increase to the point where they can look back and be like, that buffer never gets wider. They just make more, they spend more, and they go like, oh, well, now I'm making more, I got to go buy a BMW. I mean, I guess, like, reward yourself. That's great. But like, when you have a buffer, you're like, holy crap, like, why do I not? Like, and I think it comes with valuing your time. I had a coach, it was actually a high school gig I had when I first opened my company. And he asked me to come out and lead the warm-ups for a camp that he was holding. And he was like, I'm going to have a bunch of my pro guys that I've worked with through the years. It's the off season. I'm going to have like 5 guys out there. It would be great to have you in front of them. They would probably be great clients. They've already heard about you. And I was like, sick. This is an amazing opportunity. My daughter had a softball tournament that weekend. And he was like, well, how much is it going to cost to have you come out? And I was like, man, I don't know. Like, I might miss softball. And I was like, but this is also a great opportunity. And I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, I'm not paying you for your expertise. And this was the first time I've ever heard this, because everyone always wants to tell you that bullshit of, well, I'm not paying you for your time. I'm paying for your knowledge, and I'm paying for everything you learned. Okay, that's fine. You know, you're getting paid what you're valued. But he said, I'm not paying you for your time, your expertise, or your knowledge. I'm paying you to be away from your family. How much does it cost for you to not be with your daughter this weekend?
Yeah.
And I literally sat back, and it was the first time anyone's ever said that to me. And I was like, wow, man, I don't think I'm going to do it, man. I don't think I have that number, and I don't think you'd pay me it. And he was like, you made the right decision. And that literally changed my outlook on money and my family, because you're really not being paid for anything that you think. You're being paid to not be at home. Like, that is kind of what you're getting paid, unless you can get paid to be at home and be around your kids, which is cool, but you're literally getting paid to not be with your loved ones. So how much you're really putting the price tag on them. So when I started looking at it like that, it kind of changed how I looked at things.
All right, I think that's perfect time to wrap it up. Where can people find you online?
I mean, there are not many Vernon Griffiths. Vernon Griffith 4 is all my social media accounts, websites, links to everything. I'm pretty good about having links and bios to everything I have, but yeah.
Awesome, man. Cool. Thank you.